Hi there everybody, it's Halsey from slimandstylish.com and I'm a UK Stampin' Up independent demonstrator. This is the card that I made for my final part of the presentation that I did at Onstage this weekend at Telford. It's using the Bloom and Grow photopolymer stamp set and the Budding Blooms dies that will be as a bundle in the new catalogue. For this card I use a Stamparatus in a wreath sort of fashion. I stamped once at the bottom and then flipped the paper and stamped once at the top. I then used the dies to create a die cut using post-it notes so that I could mask and keep stamping round in a wreath. When I presented this card on stage, this was the one I actually did some stamping for. It's a bit nervous. 600 people were looking at me and trying to keep your hands from not shaking were really bad. I only held up the die cut sheet to show everybody what the die cuts do, and I could feel it shaking. And then of course I panicked because I knew I'd be putting ink to stamp and then that to the card, and I thought, gosh, this is going to go wrong. But luckily the Stamparatus hid it. No one could see. Well, hopefully no one could see. So as you can see, I've moved the stamp, not the paper, and I've only moved it once and then flipped the paper around again. So I'm going to move it again so it goes into that gap, keeping the big flower in the middle. I'm going to ink it up and stamp it again, and then I'm going to turn the paper so that the whole wreath is symmetrical. I've only had to move that stamp 3 times. I'm still going to mask all of them because this stamp set has some little foliage pieces, and they will go round the edge to make it a bigger, fatter and fuller wreath, which is quite nice. They're sort of berry ones. There's actually 4 of the little bits and pieces in this. I'm going to use just the 3. The leaves, the longer leaves with the berries on top, and then just the berries. I've liked using the berries because I'm going to colour those in with the red, and I think it just makes a slightly different statement with the colours. So I'm going to stamp them at the bottom, and then because it's symmetrical I know that I can turn it round and stamp it again. That's what the great thing is about my Stamparatus. I know that everything's going to match up. And once you remove the post-it notes, it should look like that. Because I've got the Stamparatus out, I'm going to do all of my stamping before compiling it because that just made sense to me. So I'm going to use these 3 little stamps, and I'm going to add the bouquet stamp onto it as well. Now I had to redo this because, as you've just seen, my vellum moved, so by the time I came in with my Versamark, it didn't go over the top of where the black mark was, and it just looked messy. So I did it again, but I removed the longer one because I remembered that I hadn't actually used that on the card, and I just used the 3 little ones. You want 2 of each, and I've double stamped them with stays on, and then I've cleaned it off, put the Versamark on and use clear embossing powder over the top. The reason I do this is it creates so much shine, but one thing I did notice in the new catalogue on stage was Stampin' Up are releasing shimmery embossing powder for the new catalogue. I'm going to get it and tell you exactly how good it is, and hopefully it will make this process so much simpler because you'll just have to stamp and use that instead rather than having your memento or stays on underneath. Fingers crossed it works. So once I've heat embossed that, I'm actually going to do the sentiment as well because, like I said, I want to do all the stamping in one go. This is 9.5 centimetres in width, so it's the same length as my background card, and it's 5 centimetres tall, so it just fits this lovely sentiment. The font in this set is amazing. It's really swirly and really cute. I think I like the font as much as I like the flowers. Maybe. But I've done the same thing. I've done it in Memento, and then I've Versamarked over the top, and I'm going to clear heat emboss so you just get that shine whenever you move the card. If you're wondering why I'm putting it on top of plates, I've found that helps keep the card stock straight when you're heat embossing because sometimes it warps. It doesn't work perfectly, but it works a little bit better. So this is the wreath that we did earlier, and I'm going to colour it in with dark and light rich raspberry, dark and light Highland heather, dark and light Bermuda bay, dark and light mint macaron, dark and light old olive, dark and light granny apple green, and I'm going to finish it off with a slight bit of Poppy Parade. If you want me to talk you through the colouring so you can see which colours I use in which order and how to push it out, do check my card from yesterday. It's a take on this card and uses the same stamp set but is a slightly different design, and I talked all about the colouring during that. So while I continue colouring, I'm going to put some music on and I will join you when our wreath is fully covered. Fully coloured, I'm going to bring in my Big Shot and I'm going to run it through with the dies that I used earlier. Just a heads up, I didn't tell you while I was colouring because I had the music on, but I actually used the the basic black Stamp and Write marker just to fill in where the lines would have been wherever there was a ridge at the post-it notes. So you might have seen me draw a couple of leaves in. Because the post-it notes are slightly higher and I was stamping over the top, it just left a slight gap between the two images. So I just filled that in so I knew where to colour. Once I've cut all of these out, I'm going to turn them over and colour them with my dies. Not with my dies. I'm editing this video late at night, can you tell? I'm going to turn it over and colour it with my blends. The reason why I'm colouring it in on the back side is because then it will have this slightly lighter colour when I turn it round and it will look a bit more effective on my card. I'm only doing it with the dark colours so that they do show through a bit better. I'm then going to mount it onto basic black and Bermuda Bay. I know I've chose both mounts just because I'm awkward with this. I'm just using Tombow to stick it. And then once I've done that, I'm going to run a strip of snail along the middle and attach a layer of vellum. The vellum can be whichever size you want it to be, but you only really want to cover half the wreath. Check out a few different sizes and see what works best for you. Before I attach the sentiment over the top, I'm just marking where the sentiment will come so I can put some glue dots and attach the vellum pieces so they just hang out over the edge and below the bottom of the sentiment. Once I've done that, I'm going to stick the sentiment on. I'm going to use some dimensionals just so it pops up quite nicely. There you are, there's me using the dimensionals. And then I'm going to attach it with the ribbon that's carried over from the annual catalogue. The cutest thing about this set are these little vellum flowers. I also I didn't stamp them out. I put them through the Big Shot when I put the other ones through. They are so cute for embellishments. Look at them. As I've done them in vellum, you can't properly see them, but do have a look at the picture because they just add a nice little bit. And I'm going to be using those on all my cards, whether I use this set or not, because I just think they're useful. I've added diamantes and rhinestones in the middle to create more shimmer and then put the ribbon on the top. It was great on stage because people really cheered when this card finished, and I was quite glad that people liked it. What do you think? I think it's definitely a great set. You can find out more information over on my website at slimandstylish.com. Thank you for joining me.